Boruto 2 Blue Vortex Chapter 13 was absolutely crazy, and it has now led to some crazy but yet understandable theories to be made. In today's video, we'll be breaking down the most crazy theory of them all, and it obviously has to involve Shibai and Boruto. But most importantly, this theory involves the awakening of Boruto's Jougan. And this theory mainly stems from something quite interesting that we learned about Jira, and Jira's comments on Boruto being alive. The way Jira comments on Boruto still being alive at the current moment, he called it a divine intervention, as if some godly figure was intervening in Boruto's current timeline to allow Boruto to live. This text is quite interesting when it is added to the additional things we learn from Kashin Koji, and how in almost every future, Boruto is killed by Jira. So this only solidifies what Jira was saying, as if Boruto in this current moment, he was supposed to be sniped a second time by Jira and then end up dying. But through some events that happen in this current timeline, a timeline that has been changed through different reasons, we have a Boruto who is still alive and a Jira who had to go back to the Senju dimension. It is almost as if Boruto's fate is being manipulated so that he is allowed to live. Because if we look at it from a probability perspective, you would see that Boruto has dodged some key events that would eventually lead to the planet being destroyed. We had an event where, as Kashin Koji stated, it was more likely for Naruto to end up losing to Ishiki in Baryon mode, but somehow, someway, Naruto ended up surviving with an Ishiki who didn't have the option to have Kawaki as his vessel. Although the probability was high for Naruto to end up passing during that fight, somehow, someway, Naruto made it through. And the same thing could be said for another bad outcome that was supposed to happen, like the one that Kashin Koji points out. In most of the futures, Kawaki ended up killing Boruto and Sarada, but somehow, someway, Boruto and Sarada escaped that future. There are multiple different futures and probable outcomes that Boruto and his story was supposed to take, but somehow, someway, the most unlikely scenario is happening, where we have a Boruto who ends up finding out a way to survive and prevent the worst future from taking place. Somebody has to be manipulating Boruto's destiny and for a certain goal, and the only person that does come to mind for this task would be Shibai Otsutuski. But first of all, we do see some key similarities and key aspects between Boruto and Shibai Otsutuski that is quite similar. A lot of people mention how similar Boruto's horns are to Shibai Otsutuski's. When you check Momoshiki, whether it is fused or unfused Momoshiki, you would see that Boruto's horns don't really resemble his. However, when you check Shibai Otsutuski's horns, you would see that they are clearly quite similar. And another aspect about Shibai Otsutuski, or about an Otsutuski that has eaten countless of fruits and then turned into a god, is that they appear to have the Jougan. We have in that panel of Ishiki first explaining to us the Otsutuski will, you would see an Otsutuski god with multiple Jougan. If you also check Shibai, some people come to the consensus that one of Shibai's eyes is the Jougan. So now you would have two aspects of Boruto and Shibai Otsutuski that are quite similar, one being the horns and the other being the Jougan. So a lot of people would then come to ask, okay, why would Shibai Otsutuski be manipulating Boruto's destiny or future? Is there something that he is trying to achieve? And the most popular explanation out there is that Shibai Otsutuki is trying to create a new vessel, and that vessel is Boruto. Boruto is being guided for him to be able to be the perfect vessel for Shibai Otsutuski. So everything that we have seen take place is to lead Boruto towards becoming Shibai Otsutuski's new vessel for this realm. It is almost like Aizen and Ichigo. We had an Aizen who manipulated Ichigo's environment to allow him to become so strong to eventually be able to take him on. We've already seen these type of scenarios be explored in various stories, and we also have in the Naruto series that we had a Black Zetsu that manipulated everything, leading towards Kaguya being once again revived. Now the question that would have to be answered to actually make this theory make sense on why Shibai Otsutuski would actually do this is, what is his purpose? What is Shibai Otsutuski trying to achieve? If he ascended to a new dimension, what is the purpose of him worrying about this dimension? And the only thing that I could personally think about is that by Shibai Otsutuski ascending to a new dimension, a new plane of existence, he had to discard his body, which means that he lost the ability to now interact with the current world as we see it. As to be a normal entity in this world, you have to have a body. But by Shibai ascending to a new dimension, a new plane of existence, he disregarded that one factor that is needed to operate in this world. So Shibai Otsutuski may be trying to use Boruto as some sort of anchor or vessel to allow him to operate not only in that new plane of existence, but also in the current plane that he no longer is able to tap into due to not having a body. In theory, Shibai Otsutuski is using Boruto as an anchor or a way for him to have control over both planes of existence at the same time. And this is quite interesting, and this theory does have some sort of validity, and it is quite understandable and would enrich in the plot and be something quite interesting. This type of thing where we have a god who is manipulating the current circumstances to lead to an outcome that he desires, while us as the audience only find out later on in the story, is something that could work in Boruto. I don't know exactly how it would clash with the theme of destiny, as we can see that it is quite involved in Boruto's character, with Juro who keeps telling Boruto that he can't run from his destiny. Will something happen in this plot if this theory is to be true, where Boruto is able to go against it or prove that one can or cannot defy his destiny? This is going to be the path that Ikimoto and Kijimoto will have to take if they want to prove and answer that point while still having this theory be true of Shibai Otsutuski manipulating Boruto's destiny. This does make sense. However, there are still points to be made to go against this theory. First, talking about the good points of this theory, the similarities between Boruto and Shibai Otsutuski, like the Jougan and the horns, this is something that makes a lot of sense. And if this theory is to be true, we would have the future that Boruto is currently taking is for him to eventually awaken the Jougan, and it be one of the reasons why Boruto and Shibai Otsutuski are able to become anchors, or for Boruto to become a vessel of Shibai Otsutuski. But Jougan this, Jougan that. Everybody is saying that the Jougan will be a broken dojutsu. And why is that? Why is that we're currently seeing everybody believe that the Jougan is going to be something quite crucial, with us not really getting a lot of information, just simply based off the things that we have seen regarding the Jougan. We haven't seen it being used in the manga. We've seen it in the manga, but we just didn't see its application. But in the anime, we have seen few instances in which Boruto has been able to use the Jougan. So what makes a lot of people believe that it is so broken? And this is my personal opinion. The first thing that we have to discuss is the current state of the abilities that we are currently seeing in the Boruto series. We got the foreshadowing necessary in chapter 75, where we had Amato introduce the concept of Senjutsu, and ever since that chapter, we have slowly started to see Senjutsu abilities started to be devolved to us, like Ida's omnipotence, Damien's reflective ability, Code using the claw marks against the Tentails, Kawaki using Ishiki's abilities, and Senjutsu. We have started to see the ramping of these abilities that come from gods, of these divine abilities known as Senjutsu. We have started to see it more and more, literally with Kashin Koji, who has future sight. So with the current path that the story is taken, if Boruto is to continue advancing and the Jougan is going to be Boruto's main dojutsu, we can already start to see why it is likely to have these broken abilities and these divine miracles being able to be produced using the Jougan. But pinpointing exactly what the Jougan may be is something that is still hard to do. But based off everything that we are currently seeing, I do believe that we have already started to see a key ability that the Jougan may have. And you can simply see this by observing every instance that Boruto has used the Jougan. I have a future video for this planned, so I'll keep it light for this video. When we saw Boruto use the Jougan for the first time in the anime, if we do not count the first time skip scene, you would see that it was against Momoshiki. where Boruto ended up using the Jougan in an almost Sharingan-like manner, in which he was able to dodge Momoshiki's abilities, and that was the only thing we saw Boruto use it like a Sharingan. Then we saw Boruto use the Jougan against Nue, but in this application, the Jougan didn't act like a Sharingan, but it acted like a Byakugan, pinpointing exactly where Boruto should hit Nue for him to be able to revert back to his normal form, and Boruto was able to do so. And another example of this is the fight versus Urashiki, where Boruto's Jougan did not act as a Sharingan or even a Byakugan, but it literally showed Boruto exactly where Urashiki was going to pop up, almost like he could see a few seconds into the future. Boruto using the Jougan, each time he uses it, it showcases a different ability that we have not seen prior, being used in a Sharingan-like manner, being used like a Byakugan, and being used to see a few seconds into the future. How is that possible that we've seen just multiple different variations of the way the Jougan is used? And my personal opinion is that the Jougan isn't a dojutsu that has a single application. However, the Jougan may be a dojutsu that analyzes people's weaknesses and gives you the strength and power necessary to beat them. In the instance of Momoshiki, he did not need all that crazy stuff where he had to see the future. He simply needed to be able to counter the moves that Momoshiki was going to use, so he used it in a Sharingan-like manner. Versus Nue, he did not need to use it in a Sharingan manner. He simply needed to be able to pinpoint exactly what was Nue's weakness so that he could revert him back to normal, and thus it applied like a Byakugan. And versus Urashiki, Boruto did not need it necessarily in a Sharingan-like manner or in a Byakugan-like manner, but he needed to see exactly where Urashiki was going to pop up so that he could end up defeating him. The way that Urashiki describes the Jougan, he describes it as troublesome, and an ability that allows you to know exactly what is your opponent's weakness, and thus your eye gives you the power necessary to defeat them. This is a crazy ability, and it would mean that Boruto's Senjutsu or Jougan operates in a way that analyzes his opponent's weakness and thus provides him with the abilities necessary to defeat them. And that would be a crazy Senjutsu. That would make a lot of sense due to the crazy and already broken abilities that we have seen Boruto have with the Jougan. This makes perfect sense, but there are other aspects like Momoshiki talking about Otsutsuki's using omnipotence to affect human memories of key events that have taken place. Momoshiki tells Boruto if he really thinks this is the first time omnipotence has been casted on Earth. So with these few things, you can already have a good theory. However, the negative side of this theory is the lack of proof and a real motive for Shibai Otsutuski to be manipulating Boruto's destiny. Due to us not having a strong understanding of what Shibai is trying to achieve, we can generate a real motive for Shibai Otsutuski to be manipulating Boruto's destiny. And also, the divine intervention that Jira is talking about, at least in the context of this chapter and not in the context of the theory, the most plausible thing that Jira could have been referring to was Kashin Koji, as Kashin Koji is the one with the ability to see the future, and it is because of that ability that we now see changes happen in this future. Where Boruto was supposed to die, Boruto doesn't end up dying due to Kashin Koji technically being the guy who is manipulating Boruto's destiny by having him know key events that will happen in the future but in the present. That is a divine intervention, and we know that Senjutsu are divine miracles. So this divine intervention could just be Kashin Koji, or it could be double foreshadowing, not only for Kashin Koji as we figure out in this chapter, but for another god like Shibai Otsutuski to be doing so. Yeah, so this pretty much makes this a very interesting conversation to be had. Is a god really manipulating Boruto's circumstances and leading towards him awakening the Jougan so that he can use Boruto as a vessel? This is a theory that is quite interesting, and with the way that it will play off with the themes of the Boruto series and Boruto especially as a character and his attempt to defy destiny and defy the futures that Kashin Koji has seen to lead to a future where the worst possible future doesn't take place and his family is restored. This is the path that Boruto is taking. Will this happen or not? We will see, but this conversation is one that should be had. So let me know what you you guys think in the comment section below. And another interesting conversation that should be had is Amado's involvement and understanding of the Soul Thorn. What does he know about the Senju? And when he is informed about the things that are taking place, what reaction will he have?